Hello, everyone, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Better the Pond Pondcast, the Flying V edition, where we talk to incredible people who are creating impact and ripples on the pond. My name is Warren Berry, and I'm your host and the founder of Instinctive Solutions, where we believe that everyone is an odd duck, but that is what makes them awesome. Today, my guests are Dave Young and Duane Johns. Representing both sides of the border today, Dave and Duane are coaches, consultants, and geniuses in the home building sector, both running franchises with Alair Homes and are co-hosts of the Builder Nuggets podcast. I was in the company of greatness. Dave and Duane are all about people first and home building second. They're all about elevating their people, providing purpose, and then delegating to those people who do it best. It's not about joining a company to get something. It's about joining a company to give something. Now listen to Dave and Duane talk about getting to know yourself, then collaborating with others to do great things. Thank you, Dave and Duane, for everything that you do to better the pond. All right, we have Dave Young, Duane Johns representing both sides of the border. We are got two coaches, consultants, absolute geniuses in the home building sector. They are fellow podcasters with the Builder Nuggets podcast. And we're also in the presence of greatness. So Duane Johns and Dave Young, I am so happy to have you on the Better the Pond podcast.
Well, that's a very flattering introduction, presence of greatness. I'm not sure about that, but we'll see what we can do to measure up for you.
The presence of greatness and geniuses in the home building sector.
Yes.
Wow. I wonder when are they showing up? It's just the three of us right now.
Yeah.
Well, they are here. They are here. I'm in the presence of greatness.
Thanks,
we're in it together. We're in it together, buddy. Yeah,
all right,
we're in it together.
So, and just we got to do with talking about the Builder Nuggets podcast, right? I mean, I have the official attire.
Yes.
I mean, how many people have these? These are a rare commodity.
A few, mostly guests. We don't just hand these out willy-nilly. You know, it takes a little bit of effort to get one.
Yeah.
So
we've had behind my right there, you might see in the background, those are some flip-flops, and we might have to get you a pair of the flip-flops.
Oh, yeah. So if I, because I was a guest on your podcast.
I got the black one. I got the black one.
Oh, very nice. But you do need a little bit of splash of color.
Yeah.
So if you're a guest on the podcast, you can receive a gift. But if you're actually, if you're a guest on mine, does that come with complimentary flip-flops?
Oh, we can do that.
I think we can do that. Yeah.
Wow. All right. Let's wrap this up. We're done. That's all I need to know.
Yeah, that's it. Nothing says freedom like flip-flops. That's why we went with them. They're pretty neat. They actually leave the Builder Nuggets markings in the sand, or in the snow. I've worn them. I've worn them in the snow too.
Yeah.
Hence a representation of both sides of the border. We got up in the Toronto Newmarket area of snow, and we got North Carolina, which is sun.
Yes,
we got both sides.
We got it covered, man.
All right, we got it covered. All right. So, gentlemen, this is kind of a first. Not very often to have two people on the on my Pondcast. So this is gonna be a lot of fun today, and I will try to be a good steward of time. But there's a couple things I want to talk to you about in regards to what do you guys do? So, and I know you have the Alair side, and you have the coaching and mentoring. You have the podcast side. So, who wants to go first and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Duane absolutely wants to go first.
Yes. I saw that.
Okay, what do we do? And I guess we'll probably get into a little backstory after this, but I am a builder remodeler from Charlotte, North Carolina. So I have a contracting business here, and I am also a regional partner for Alair, which means I work with several other builders here in the Carolinas, as well as across the Alair network, kind of in a supportive role and, crazy collaboration. That's what we do. I also am a co-host on the Builder Nuggets podcast, very involved in the industry, home builder associations, other builder groups, things like that. So that's kind of what I do.
Excellent.
My background came from real estate, multifamily real estate investment. And I was minding my own business one day and got a call out of the blue about this Alair opportunity. And I heard it was a custom home building network. And I said, forget it. The joke in my house is the best tool in the toolbox is the checkbook. But I listened to Blair McDaniel, the founder, talk. We had a 30-minute call that went 2 hours and 45 minutes. And I heard about his vision for how he could change the custom home building industry. And that really, as an entrepreneur, I've had a couple different real estate technology companies as well. And I became very interested in what that would look like. And that was 10 years ago when it was, a small idea. And now there's 100 locations across North America. So I get to interview builders that we would like to get to know better and share with them the services that Alair provides in, behind the scenes to really elevate them, their team, and their business, stuff that they've never had before. So that's the exciting part for me. And I still do a little bit of real estate investment on the side. And then, of course, Duane and I took what we were learning with Alair and decided we were just going to share that with the rest of the industry through a podcast. And we've had the very good fortune of meeting all kinds of cool people like yourself who say, hey, we want to get involved and share what we know too. And it's been amazing. Amazing journey over the last 2.5 years with the podcast, something that I was really nervous about doing. But now it's pretty fun and we get a lot of engagement. So it's great. Thanks for having us here today to talk even more about it.
You're very welcome. And actually, I will say, and it's sort of a bit of a shameless plug, but I do love your podcast. I really, what I love about it so much is there's such a variance. There's like the builders, and there's about people, and there's a little bit of everything in there, but you always walk away with learning something new. Every single one there is always, again, builder nuggets, but there's nuggets of wisdom that are in it, and I do appreciate it. So I'd highly suggest that people actually check out your podcast because it is very, very well done.
Well,
yeah, thank you for that. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much. It takes a lot of people to make it that way. There's a lot of knowledge, and we get to be the pond, like you. We get to be the collection point and ask questions, and Duane and his team do a great job of producing it. So
yeah, that's very, very well produced. One of the things of meeting the two of you, plus I've met some other people in the Alair world, and there's something really exceptional about Alair and what they're doing. And so can you dive just a little bit into that, of what makes Alair so much different than any other home builder?
Duane, kick it off. What's your take?
I think it's, the Johnny Cash attire has a little something to do with that. We wear a lot of black trucks, things like that. Really it's the camaraderie. It's this culture. It's when we talk with builders, there's a lot of things I think that Alair does special. It brings to the table things that help business owners, teams, project managers just do their jobs better. Software and systems and processes, training, all sorts of things behind the scenes. But the thing that's really, and we kind of call it the intangible, it's the culture. Mm-hmm. A great example. We just came off our annual conference last week and had close to 300 people there. And it was just 300 fantastic people, people that are sharing, collaborating at a crazy high level. You probably don't see, I had a few people comment on people that were like their first time there. They said they've never seen so many people hug each other at the same time. It's truly like a family, but it's people that are of a similar mindset, convinced that, and maybe it's just that it happens to be that we're in the construction industry, but there's the tagline for Alair is living better. Living better starts here, and that's truly the way people are. They believe that there's a way to run our businesses, grow our teams, collaborate together that just truly makes everyone's lives better. The clients' lives better, the homeowners' lives better, trades, your teams. And it's pretty cool to see. It's a mastermind at a crazy level. I collaborate a lot in this industry, but we've at Alair, they've got something special.
Mm-hmm. What's your take?
I'm going to piggyback onto that, and it's the power of the mastermind, driven by the culture and the desire to continually level up and create opportunity for your team. And for people who learn about it, discover it, and get involved, and then experience it, they then understand, wow, I was trying to do everything on my own before. There's a giant weight of responsibility on a construction business owner. They need to be, they want to keep their subtrades employed. They want to keep their team a pipeline full of work, but yet they have to balance what's going on with the accounting, what's my marketing plan, and they have to grow these businesses, and each one is its own unique individual thing with parts that may or may not be right. And when you take the collective mastermind of what Alair is doing, and you have dedicated specialists in every single role, providing leadership and stewardship and insight and coaching, and you make that available, all that insight available to every member of the organization, like right down to project managers getting opportunity to be fractional owners within the business, to open additional offices together. There are things that are happening in Alair that are not happening anywhere else in the business. Just even look at succession planning, and how many custom home builders or remodelers actually sell their business for something meaningful. We're processing sales monthly with fractional buy-ins for project managers, or opening up new offices. We're seeing all kinds of different things happen. So that's probably a long-winded answer, but it's the power of the mastermind with experts at every single level that's got this culture of inclusion where, everybody is on the team. Everybody has a really vital role, especially project managers. Mm-hmm. And we're committed to creating opportunity and having this massive market shift. And it is fun. Duane, that was the other thing that we saw. Karaoke night with a live karaoke band. And you're like, the talent doesn't just end at the building. We had like absolute rock stars out there. It was amazing. And, doing amazing races and getting everybody together. It's nonstop elevation in every aspect of your life.
One of the things I find really fascinating is looking back in time when home builders, they would never collaborate. They would always, everybody's going to hang on to their little secret or what they're doing. And right, it was all very siloed and very individual. And it was all competition. And now you've taken that and really did a whole complete 180 and turned it into collaboration. And it's kind of like, it's sort of the same idea of, flying in the V formation, right? Like we're right. Better together.
Yeah, the industry's gone through a big change, and this industry is always slow to adopt. It's slow to adopt new technologies, building products. A lot of what you hear in this industry is the way it's always been done, or, my dad did it. My grandfather did it this way for 30 years. And things change, but this industry is slow to change. But what I think is beginning to happen is, we're seeing these changes across all industries. And things just don't happen the way they used to happen. You have to be able to do things differently, and to attract today's, younger workforce, to accommodate today's client, the demands of what a client is today. I think business owners, the freedom that even a business owner wants or expects. I'm old enough now that I when I first got into this industry over 30 years ago, it was truly still the industry of just shut up and go to work. It was put your head down, and if you would prove yourself over time. That's sort of how you earned the respect. But you didn't, when you came to work for the first time, wasn't a whole lot of mentoring and training, and you really had to figure it out. That there's been a big shift in that, to where I think we realize that has to happen from the beginning. We have to share, we have to collaborate, and the industry is starting to break down a lot of those barriers. And again, that's a lot of what we're doing here at the core with Alair, and then with the podcast with Builder Nuggets. It's all about connecting and collaborating at a crazy high level. Much easier that way.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, gentlemen, you know what? I think Duane, we'll start with you. So I want a little bit of a backstory. So I want to know what got you from being a Gosling and I'm talking your very, like, right at the very beginnings, right, to when you left the nest. Now, either you left the nest on your own or you were gently nudged out, one of the two, and to where you are today. So, Duane Johns, what is your backstory?
Okay, I'll give the backstory, kind of condense it as much as I can here. I grew up on Eastern Long Island, east of New York City, in a place called the Hamptons. I was fortunate enough to start having some summer jobs. You're right in high school, working on construction sites on some fantastic stuff. I mean, oceanfront estates. So I was fortunate to be immersed in what like crazy craftsmanship was like, some really cool stuff. And sort of fell in love with it immediately, all aspects of it, just, hey, this is something that I want to do. Found that I could actually make a decent wage, at that. And so from the guy that was stacking lumber, I suddenly picked up some more skills, put the tool belt on. I have done painting, carpentry, trim work, roofing side. There's nothing I didn't do. And I was always very observant and watching all of the other trades and everything around me, what went into creating these custom homes. Then became a subcontractor myself, working for from custom builders, and then eventually decided to start my own business. Moved to the Carolinas back in 1996, partnered with a fellow named Roger Ketchum from upstate New York back in 1997. We are still business partners to this day, but we started very hands-on. It was just the two of us. I mean, maybe that was a little bit of, maybe I was still in the nest. And at that point is when I jumped out of the nest, Roger and I. Very successful right out of the gate, strong connection with our clients. But it was the very stereotypical doing everything ourselves, and then I was wearing lots of hats. I went from the guy that was doing manual labor to taking time in the evenings, doing sales calls and estimating and just all the stuff that goes with it. You've heard it. And then through the evolution, the hat started to change into, wow, I need to become the HR guy. I need to become the IT guy. I need to become I need to know everything about business, and it was a bit of a rat race, and then we survived the downturn in 2008. On the other side of that, I came out with a little bit different perspective and was really, and I've always been someone that believes there's a better way. There's just a better way. That frustrated a lot at times, a lot of people that I worked with, because they'd say, well, just do it. And I went, no, there's a better way to do this. So opened my mind a bit, started getting involved with other entrepreneur groups and business groups. I started to see things outside of the contractor world and looked at it more as a business. And started to realize there are some better ways to do this. There was a moment where Roger and I were like, hey, this is great. It's a great living, but what are we going to do when we grow up? What are we doing with this thing in long term? Are we ever going to sell this business? Or are we ever going to be able to step away from this business? So while I was sort of acting as a sponge and just taking in as much as I can, I was approached by Alair, and Dave Young was one of the first people to contact me. And sort of like him, I'm like, there's no way this is not going to work. There's just no way this industry is going to accept that, but I quickly
pages of questions and
pages of questions
that we would go through. Yeah.
But the more I dug into it, and actually, as I started to meet the people that were involved with Alair and joined Alair, I said, well, these are a lot of people that are very similar to me. They're successful builders, remodelers. They're convinced there's a better way to do things. I dove in, and joined Alair. I became a regional partner here in the Carolinas, and that's really the story in a nutshell. And it's allowed me to step away from my day-to-day operation of my contracting business in Charlotte. That has shifted more towards my business partner Roger and his team, and now I'm focusing more on the coaching and consulting side through Alair with the other builders and teams in the Carolinas, and that's where I am.
So I'm gonna take you back into the Hamptons. What was it that got you interested, or where was the start in home building? Where was the start? Was it your dad that got you going? Was it an uncle? Where did your humble beginnings?
Maybe there's a little relation to some of the folks that live in the Great White North. A place like the Hamptons, it's one of the most beautiful places on earth, but it's also a very seasonal type of area. Became very resort like. I mean, summer times is kind of when you made your money. In the wintertime, not much happened out there. So some of the few ways to make money for side jobs and in the summer was, to work on construction sites, or, maybe work at one of the beach stands, be a lifeguard or something like that. But I mean, I think the fact that some of these just incredible homes were all around us, on the ocean front. Um, I just thought they were cool, So I had some folks, some family members, and some other folks that were close to me that had businesses, and it seemed to be, it made sense. Hey, have some time in the summer, come work on a job site. And quickly, like I said, I was kind of enamored by it, and dove in.
Very cool. So, Dave, what got you from being a gosling to when you left the nest to where you are today? Dave Young, what is your backstory?
Yeah, I shared a little bit with you there earlier, but I grew up in a very small town, 12,000 people at the time on Georgian Bay, called Midland.
Midland?
Yep, Midland, Ontario.
Midland, Ontario.
And I still spend a lot of the year up in that same area today. But I think what changed things for me is my parents got into rental real estate when I was about 10 or 11, and then the local factory where my dad was working closed down, and a close family friend was the local real estate broker, and he said to my mom and dad, hey, you guys would have a knack for real estate. You should try this, and you're interested in investment properties. Why don't you go and get your real estate licenses? So with the factory having closed down, times were pretty tough. But I watched them go into that business. I saw them work very, very hard. But they also began to really focus on acquiring rental properties. And my dad taught us a lot about the fundamentals behind that. And I just became enraptured with it and thought, well, why wouldn't you do that? I mean, you scrape together, you save up some money for a down payment. My dad taught us the value of opium, other people's money, not the poppy version, but using other people's money, which he calls OPM. Others do as well. And from the time I was 14, 15, I knew that, hey, that's what I wanted to do. But I also knew that I had to get out of this, small town. So I went off to university to grow up. I went to McMaster in Hamilton. Not sure how much I grew up there, but came back, got my real estate license at the same time, and started buying properties in my mid 20s. And then I had the opportunity, because I was in Midland, I left again and got lured into the pharmaceutical industry. I had buddies that were doing that, and it looked like a great job, and I hated it. And I had the opportunity to work on a really cool real estate mapping project. Before Google Maps, we were positioning something that looks very much like today. And through that, I ended up working in the industry for a while, and then starting my own companies related to that. And that's sort of when I got a call out of the blue about this whole Alair thing. And I'm like, you know what? I'm entrepreneurial. I'm on the visionary side. I heard another entrepreneur's vision, and I just thought that will work. I just believed in it right away, and then started looking around for others who are looking for what Alair had to offer, which was elevation and consolidation within the industry, but still getting to be yourself. So that was 10 years ago, and it's really come a long way. It's fun, and it's exciting, and we've got great teammates, and we're literally shifting an industry. It's so nice to see it, when you jump into something a decade later, to see it actually coming true and being even better than what you initially imagined. And it's just getting rolling now. So yeah.
What did you go to McMaster for?
I originally wanted to go into commerce, and but I failed a calculus exam. So here's a little look at the visionary mindset here. On the first day of class, the professor said, if your final exam mark is better than your term mark, it counts for 100%. So I'll see you in April was kind of my approach to that. And the night before, I've always been able to learn everything quickly. And I just thought, oh, I'm going to learn calculus tonight. And I didn't learn enough calculus. So I ended up with a degree in a BA in with a major in geography and a minor in anthropology. But I had a great time, and I really went there to grow up. So for me, that was being involved with a fraternity on campus and some community stuff that we got to do, and just being away from a small town and immersed with other young people who were making a success of themselves was fun.
You can see a very clear straight line in your path, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's probably a good thing. I couldn't imagine. I mean, there were a few years I've worked 3 years for a large data company, and it's a good company, but I realized like I'm basically unemployable. Like for me, I'm just going to get so bored with it. It's probably a good thing I failed calculus and didn't end up with a commerce degree and going into the corporate world, because that's not fun for me at all. Charting a new course and discovering and bringing new things back to the pond. I mean, that's the fun part. That's the rewarding part for me.
Yeah, I think going into the corporate world was death by 1,000 paper cuts. I think. Yeah. All right. Well, there's the backstory. That is fantastic. So let's go back to you, Dave, because you were just finishing off here. And what's the greatest thing that's ever happened to you that's ruffled your feathers? Now, it can be positive or negative. So what's the greatest thing that's ever happened to you that ruffled your feathers, and how did you respond to it?
Geez, that's a tough one, because I don't get my feathers ruffled that often. I'm pretty easygoing. I can think of one, but I'm not sure I can tell it on the air.
Why not?
It was after a university hockey game where in my residence, the upper class, it was my first year, the upperclassmen played a full contact game against the lower classmen, or the freshmen, and we're just out to kill us, which was great. It was fun as anything. And we had this big party afterwards, and my brother had come down from high school, and there was this one senior who was chirping me the whole time, and he didn't even play. And my younger brother said, "Hey, Dave, like, what's going on with this guy? Why is he doing this?" Like, he was trying to be cool or whatever. And I said, I don't really know. He says, "You should probably say something." I'm like, okay. So next time he started chirping me, I said, "Hey, enough's enough. Here's a beer. Let's move on." And he made one of the most derogatory comments you could ever make about somebody's mother, and my mother in particular. And my brother was standing right there. I grabbed a left full of shirt, went back to fill him in. I got grabbed by about 5 or 6 people. I was in a stairwell, at the top of a stairwell, and I went backwards, jumped and took him backwards down the stairwell through a sea of people, flipped him in the air, landed on his back and over his throat. That's the most I've ever been ruffled. I couldn't hit him again. I could not do it because when he was kicking, and anyway, he was just in such a vulnerable position. I couldn't do it. So I'm sorry, dude. That's the one that came to my mind where I just sort of lost it. Nothing to do at all with business, really.
That's okay. I never asked if it had to do with business.
Yeah.
So what did you learn? What did you learn from that?
I think to shut things down sooner before it gets to the point where you have that talk earlier and decide what you're going to accept in your life. And I've often struggled with hitting tough conversations, like being pretty easygoing, golden retriever. Takes a lot to get me over the edge, but address stuff sooner. even if you think it's going to be uncomfortable. And Duane and I experienced this a lot in the business that we're in, where there's stuff that can go sideways in an awful hurry, and not talking about it amplifies the thing. So just doing a better job of hitting stuff head on early.
I love that's a great story. How many times you ever, Dave? How many times have you ever told that story?
I have never told that story on the air.
There it is.
Ever. So, there you got it.
Perfect. Love it. All right, Duane, what's been one thing that's ruffled your feathers, good or bad, and how did you respond to it?
And when you asked that earlier, I jotted down a couple things, and I've had probably a few through the years incidents similar to Dave's. Most of them happened on the basketball court. But I was thinking, I would say it was probably a series of events after the housing crisis in 2008, 2009. I became very bitter. The industry made me bitter. I've been dedicated to this industry all my life. It's can't sing, can't dance. I mean, that's the way I've made my living. Had two young kids while all that happened, watching an industry collapse. Fear. How am I going to make payroll? How am I going to feed the family? All the stuff. Always knew that. Hey, I'll go to work, so that there was that to fall back on. But I got soured on the industry. Lots of people left the industry. We're still struggling today because so many people said, "Hey, I'm out of here. I'm going to find a different career path."
Right.
When that housing crunch hit so hard that it really flipped things around. It's funny, now that we're coming at, in the heights of COVID, and with COVID, things kind of flipped to where a lot of the builders and the trades to a certain degree had the upper hand, and clients kind of had to, if they wanted a home built or remodeled, they sort of had to get in line. Well, it was completely the opposite, back then. And builders were not treated well, and it was across the gamut. I mean, a client could ask 8 builders to bid on a job because they could, and
right.
just this hamster wheel of pain made me, like I said, I got very bitter towards the industry. And there were some moments I had some confrontations with a few architects, some clients, and I just didn't like what I was seeing. But I also was connected with some good mentors at the time, and said, this too shall pass. It was time to take the deep breath, to really reflect and look at, all right, well, if I'm going to remain in this industry, I've got to shed the bitterness and got to figure out a way to, to overcome this and look at the other side, put a positive spin on it. Because I am, for the most part, a positive person, and that was really gnawing at me. So, took some time to reflect and looked at ways that, what could we do different? How could we provide something that nobody else is providing to our clients at the moment? So through a series of changes, myself, with the team that we had, my business partner, Roger, we hunkered down and actually did come out of it pretty positive. We had, by 2010 or 11, had a few things going on that others didn't. So that changed my entire mindset. It got me to, as I said earlier, to stop thinking of myself as a builder, so to speak, and more as a business person, and just open my eyes to engaging with other people in other industries, really letting a lot of the outside in, which was a complete 180 shift from where I was. What got me there before that was very internal. So that shift, I would say, from, internalizing everything to reaching and accepting the outside, big shift for me. So that was, it was a negative at the beginning, but turned into a positive. Probably one of the biggest impacts in my life.
Never waste a good crisis.
Never waste a good crisis.
No, that is interesting though. And when you talk to entrepreneurs and business people, that's a very common theme is, the something that's had a really negative impact, right, and turned out to be the most positive once it flipped. And I think part of it is just enduring, as just actually, one foot in front of the other and keep going forward. And you'll get to see, and you get a chance to see the rewards on the other side.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. One of you two can jump in on this, or you both can go back and forth. I will try to be a good steward of time. So geese fly at 71% more efficiently when flying in a V formation. What do you think is the secret to getting a team flying in that V formation? What do you think is that would contribute to that 71%? And you led it a little bit earlier. We talked about it, but especially for Alair, what's the secret sauce to getting that team running in that V formation?
Well, I'll start with saying understanding what your own strengths are and what you are capable of, and continually leveling yourself up. And that, for us, I know Duane and I have been down a similar path with this, was using tools like your Colby score to really dig into what is my strength, where should I be flying. And I know with geese they take turns, and there's a reason why you do that for energy burn, but we're different from geese in that we have specialties and superpowers, if you will, where having the opportunity to put people in positions where they're doing something that's meaningful to them, that is where they're pursuing a purpose that aligns with what they're becoming great at, what they're mastering, and then giving the autonomy to go and have put their own stamp on it. I mean, those are some of the hallmarks. Those are some of the things that Dan Pink talks about in one of his books that have always resonated. But it's got to be, you have to start with yourself and focus on your game, because you're not going to be any good as a leader if you're not continuing to level up and search for the things that your team needs to get them to the next level. Because you want them in a position of supported autonomy. And then where the really good stuff happens is where they lead you. And the best leaders, Duane and I have talked about this before, the best leaders are able to, and welcome leadership from their team. So you end up with a team of specialists who are all doing things that they love, that they're great at. We talk about EOS a lot with this, but the more you can specialize and stay in your lane, and elevate somebody to a position where you can delegate the other things that need to be done with competence, and instead of a passing of the buck, that's where it all comes together. And then creating that experience where you are all excited for each other. You're delivering that experience. You're delivering an elevated experience to each other, and you're working on becoming undeniable as a team. And when that happens, more and more opportunity comes. You get into what Dan Sullivan calls, and Ben Hardy called, the 4 freedoms, which is freedom of time, freedom of purpose, freedom of relationship, freedom of money. All those things strengthen, and then it just snowballs from there.
One of the words you use a lot, you use the word elevated a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's obviously very important to you to elevate yourself and to, of course, elevate others. That's a word you frequently use.
Yeah, and it we talk about leveling up, right? And that's what you want. People want to grow. They want to progress to the next level. They want to be elevated. And it became even more prevalent. It's part of our, our mission statement, our core values that Duane and I have within our businesses. But it sort of got hammered home doing an EOS exercise, which is delegate and elevate. And we flipped it to elevate and delegate, because it felt like passing of the buck to say, if I'm delegating this to you, well, we may be elevating you because of your responsibility, and I'm elevating myself because I no longer have to do that and I can go somewhere. And that's how it was intended, with the best possible intention. But we just flipped it and said, like, let's focus on the elevation first. Let's elevate that person into that position, into that role, give them the tools that they need to succeed, then give them, and the training, then give them the task, so that people don't just have to figure it out, and that they're gonna like it, and you've got other people on your team that support all that, and they get to lead in their area, and we all support them when they're leading and managing something. So that it's elevation. And then the other one that's been a big one is becoming undeniable. That you just continue to have momentum, you continue to have wins, your team continues to level up, and then you're creating this magnet. And that's what gets you into a position of abundance, the laws of abundance versus the law of scarcity. When you're living by, like, with Duane talking about how, the podcast where we just went out and shared everything, and how the industry used to be, secretive, or, keep your cards close to your vest. Well, you can't build a magnet if you're encloaked the entire time.
Right.
But you can build one if you are out, honking and saying, come join our V, and here's why. Then, and you're sharing everything and adding value, you create an amazing magnet, and then you help other people elevate and become undeniable, and everybody levels up.
Warren, I don't know. Have you read the book $1 Trillion Coach?
$1 Trillion Coach? I have not.
$1 Trillion Coach. Fantastic. It's a story of Bill Campbell, who was a football player, coach, went on to coach the likes of Steve Jobs, Eric Schmidt, Larry Page, many, many people out there. One of the lines from it that I love is that, your title makes you a manager, your people make you a leader.
Right.
And that's because for me, that's been a lot of focus over the last couple of years, has really been around people. I talked about something the other day with Joe Torre from the Yankees, to where he's, basically when he was brought on, he says, I shouldn't, at this level, I shouldn't be brought in to teach people how to play baseball. But I'm here to help them become better teammates. And I think back to what you're saying with the geese, the goslings, they don't really have to be taught how to fly, but they need to fly better.
Right.
And I think that's really in today's high performing companies and teams. Yes, obviously there are things that we need to do to teach fundamentals, but I think we need to look beyond that. We need to, once you have the right people, the focus doesn't have to be on teaching them how to necessarily do their job. It's how to be better teammates. There's just no doubt about it, and a lot of that comes down to those soft skills that many people probably never had any training on. You've been taught the fundamentals, you've been taught the basics, but it's really being able to come together as a team to understand one another at a personal level as well as a professional level, to respect and honor everyone's space, but at the same time be respectful of the company's goals and vision, and it's tough to put all that together, but I think it's extremely important that that's where the focus has to be. So yeah, if you haven't, I highly recommend. What a fantastic book.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, I'll definitely look into that for sure. I'm always about learning. So I was talking to a client, and he was down in Southern Ontario, and one of my goals when I work with an organization is, help leaders lead from behind. That's the goal. And I said to him, once we finished the project, I said, so do you figure you can lead from behind? He says, no. And I said, well, really? So he goes, I get to lead from the shadows. And I went, I love that line. That was the keeper. And it was all about, elevating the people and then letting them become leaders. And that's my whole metaphor again of how the geese changing out. When the geese changing out, everyone's a leader. Everyone in the organization's a leader. And then you get to actually just, your job is to, help guide and, where are we going, right? And sometimes, and then the thing is, it's really important to know is that, north is a direction, but north is not clear. And so, we may be going north, but where north are we going? And then everyone can make sure that they stay in alignment to get exactly where you want to go with purpose.
Yeah, if you turn left enough times, you'll end up north.
Yeah.
In Albuquerque.
All right, gentlemen. So what are you doing? What are you doing right now to better the pond? What ripples are you guys creating out in the world? What are you doing to make the world a better place?
Duane, I think you should touch on the mental health side of things that you've been very active in, being involved in the industry, next generation stuff. I mean, we have a pretty cool event coming up too.
I think I'm spending a lot of time on the sharing side, I mean, a lot of what I've come across, what I've, as I said earlier, I've been a sponge to a lot of things. And it's almost, it would be terrible to, and I think that's for anybody out there, to put the effort into being a sponge and absorb knowledge and then to just keep it to yourself. So I mean, when I have an opportunity, if I have an opportunity to present, to speak, to go to builder functions, this isn't some, magic stuff that I've created. It's stuff that I've absorbed or, stumbled across through others. And I love to get out there and share that with folks. And whether that's best practices or, how they can build teams, how they can support their teams around a lot of the things we just talked about. Wellness is something that is near and dear to me because I'm seeing it firsthand. And again, a lot of this comes from that shift for me of someone that was very close to exiting this industry and saying the hell with it, to wait a minute, I want to improve this industry. This has been good to me. It's been good to a lot of people. It's just a little broken. How can we collectively come together and make it a truly great industry to be a part of? And I see things on the wellness side. Again, I come from the era of shut up and do your job. You didn't really vocalize problems. You took a lot of stuff home with you. It was predominantly male dominated, so that was the kind of thing that you probably shouldn't bring up. You felt, vulnerable if you did. Or forget that, no one was even going to listen anyway. But that has changed to where, and just life in general has changed. I mean, today's world is complicated for everybody. Everybody has their own host of problems, challenges. It could be personal, professional, and there are a lot of people out there that are struggling at some level, and the ability to be able to we don't necessarily have to be the people that solve that, but I think as a leader, providing a platform or a place for that to just simply be acknowledged. If business owners, if teams can have the confidence in each other to have that conversation. Somebody's struggling. I see somebody that's struggling. I mean, our industry leads in many sad categories, including suicide. And sometimes if someone had simply known that they have the ability to just have the conversation, hey, I'm struggling, I need some help with something, there's a good chance something like that could have been prevented. So I think it's things like that. There are programs out there. There are people that are doing things. We had a fella on our podcast twice now, Steve Barkhouse, that has just done some fantastic stuff with his people plan, and he's built a wellness playbook. He's not doing that to shout out and grow his ego. He wants to share that with others. So that's where I've hopefully some of the things that I've done, and I know with Dave and through the podcast, I think that's really what it is. Just trying to move the needle forward through sharing knowledge. So,
I love it. Dave, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, it's pretty tough to add to that, but the power of collaboration is real. And if you're a builder or a business owner, and you're feeling like, wow, I got all this weight on my shoulder, I've been trying to figure out how to do it all. Getting involved, with whatever your professional industry is, figuring out, try and flip it around. Instead of, Duane and I used to see this a lot, where it's like you were joining an organization to get something from it, instead of joining an organization to give something to it.
Right.
And as soon as you start investing your time and your energy and sharing what you will be surprised that, it's 10x coming back at you. Because if you share something with 10 people, they're all similar mindset, they're out doing the exact same thing. So you end up with these pods of innovation, these pods of positivity, these groundbreaking groups that are helping you elevate your team, grow yourself, overcome some of your mindset challenges, and just break through to the next level. So Duane does that through collaboration with other industry professionals. I tend to gravitate to doing it with high-level mindset business coaches, where I'm trying to find new ways of thinking, of new ways of solving problems that I can take back to the team and say, what if we approached these things this way? So that's what I find exciting. But everybody on our team is doing that in their own way. So we have Whitney, who works with us from a marketing and a brand development standpoint. She's constantly out innovating and testing stuff and bringing back and saying, do you guys want to try this? What if we did that? So we end up, Mike, who's our ops guy, he's running pilot programs around performance management and bringing back his observations and saying, what if we tweaked it to do it like this? And you end up putting a flux capacitor into your business compared to what it was like trying to figure all this stuff out on your own while you're wearing 9 hats. Like, nobody looks good in 9 hats. Try them on sometime and see how it looks. But to wear one hat that you really, that sort of signifies who you are, that you love, or even just a couple that you swap out every once in a while, very, very different than the weight and the pressure that you feel of bearing all this on your own. There's a whole new world out there for you.
I love it. It's interesting. I really appreciate the fact that you're talking about mental health. You're talking about, collaboration. And what I'm, between talking to the two of you, it's what I find really fascinating through the conversation is it's people first, home second.
Yeah. We're not even in the home building business. It's where, you think you're building a company, you're really just building your company builds homes. You think you're building homes. Your company might be building homes. You're trying to build your company. Your people are actually your company. So you need to build your people. And then when you get to the point where you get it all figured out and you're making the right investments in each other and your people are building you, that's when you've got it. That's everybody is adding value to each other and you're delivering an exceptional experience across the board to everybody who touches you. That's where you want it. That's where you want to get to.
My team in Charlotte, my home building business, we've adopted EOS. Even before I joined Alair, I've been an EOS fan, and we've got a fairly young team now. We've brought in quite a few young project managers, and gotten them immersed in the world of EOS and just really understanding the fact that they have a seat at the table. And one of the cores to EOS is, building out your core values. And it's something that you revisit each year when you do some strategic planning. But last year for me, it was great because I kind of stepped back and let the team just take a look at, all right, here's taking a quick look at our core values. Any feel like there's any need to change? Is there anything we want to do? We want to add anything? And collectively they came together and wanted to add the word connection. And I just said, all right, we'll dive a little deeper in that. What is that? And each and every one of them got so passionate about that to them, that was it. Like, that's why they come to work. They're coming to work for the connection they are making with the homeowner, with the client, with the trades, the architects, their fellow teammates. And that, for me, that was pretty powerful. It's to your point, saying that said it right there, that it's all about the people. Mm-hmm. It's about those personal connections that they're making. And I'm sure that's, that's true across all industries, all teams. So
I love it. All right, so a couple quick questions for you here. Hopefully we'll see. What is one lesson that you've learned along your path? I mean, both of your, at your young age. What would be one lesson you've learned that you would share with an entrepreneur starting a business today?
Well, I've shared probably the starting point already is get to know yourself, get to know what you are good at. And then that way you will understand, who else you need on your team, because after all, it is who, not how, when you're putting together a team, right? Mm-hmm. And make sure that your purpose and your core values all align with what it is that you want to do and that you're passionate about it. Because without that, you're going to go through tough times. It will be very tough to endure and sustain that, and to build an actual magnet, an attraction magnet to draw in the team and the people and the, all the others that you're, from clients to teammates to market partners, whatever the case may be. Absolutely. And I'll let Duane go. I got one other thing that's been really helpful for me too. But Duane, how would you add to that?
Yeah, for me, I guess it's simple to just say, ask more questions, and do it as quickly as you can. Stop trying to figure it all out on your own. I think that's the one thing that is probably commonplace with most young business owners, entrepreneurs, is it's yours, it's your baby. And you sort of feel like you failed if you've got to raise your hand every minute and ask for, I don't know how to do that. Where do I get this from? And actually I challenge everyone, the more you do it, the more you'll find out there are a tremendous amount of people out there that want to share it. There's people that have figured it out and they want to share it with you. So I think the quicker you can get yourself conditioned to that and be comfortable with just raising your hand, getting in the room with smarter people, just do it. If you're doing it now, double down, 10x it. It's by far, I think, moves the needle more than anything else.
That's a perfect segue for what I was going to go back to. And for me, this comes from working with my current business coach, Dr. Jeff Spencer. And he talks a lot about being in a state of receivership. And what he means by that, and how I interpret it, is that take that curiosity that you naturally have. So be curious, but be more observant, be more intentional, listen more, and be more open-minded, and just absorb it all. Just take the time to sit back and be in a state of receivership. Because when you're in that state, more and more information, more and more connections, more is flowing into you. Too often we're in a hurry to say the thing that we want to say. We already know, we're trusting our gut. And I was guilty of, and I'm still guilty of it, but I'm focusing on, I'm practicing receivership and then restraint more and more so that I can slow things down. I can still have the vision that I want, but I can have a few more elements shaping it and make better decisions. And when you're open to more input, you also understand with much more clarity how to explain or share your vision with others. Because a lot of the time, if it's your idea and only you understand it and you try and barf it out, comes out as a tangled mess, right? So people are sorting through it. And but really paying attention, embracing moments for what they are. And you can be in receivership if you go in for a walk in the woods and you hear the sounds of the animals or the trees, the leaves rustling in the trees and the light shining through them, or drops of rain, whatever. Just enjoy that experience and then figure out your own filters and what you need to do in order to cater what you've learned to the audience that you're working with. And that takes time and study and self-restraint.
I love that, Dave. That's almost profound. You just sort of shifted my thinking, because I think when you said that, it's so easy to kind of, either want to know it or just blurt it out or try to get it out of you, but you at that point, you're not really listening. You're actually, figuring out what your answer is going to be, and you can't get it out fast enough. So you're not open at that point.
My buddy, David Butler, he says it much more succinctly. And he's been saying this for years. If he experiences somebody who's over communicating and not listening, he's like, that guy's stuck on transmit when he needs to be in receive. And, and Butler's so great at just getting straight to the point on those types of things. But that's really what it boils down to. Before you transmit, you need to receive. And good leaders do that. They're soaking in information, they're disseminating it, and then they're filtering it and deciding, what does my team need to know right now? But if you're not open to feedback, or you're not out searching for it, that's the other thing. It needs to be intentional too. You need to go look for it. Like, go and bring it back to your team, and encourage them to bring it back to you, so that you're in a position to receive it.
Love it. All right, gentlemen, I have one last question for you. So I'll start with you, Duane. If you were standing on the top of a mountain and the whole world was intently listening to you, what would you say?
What would I say? Wow. That's a big question. I would say,
do you think KFC is still open?
Yeah, I was going to say I might. Yeah, for some reason the New York Knicks were flashing in my mind, and that's just how twisted my brain is, But someone, please help the New York Knicks. It's almost to what Dave said, and I don't know exactly what I would say, but it's almost like shut up and listen.
Mm.
You know, it's almost what I would want to tell the world. Shut up and listen.
Okay.
Not necessarily to me, just listen.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Fair. Dave?
I think it would. I don't know for sure, but it would be something around being positive. If there's anything that I've learned, I mean, I have a very short memory for anything negative. It's almost like I purge it out of my system and I forget about it. But being in a position where you always looking at the bright side, picking the good out of something gets you to a solution so much faster than dwelling on the negative. Plus you have a way better time while you're doing it. And it's, again, this word, elevating for your team to do that. And I mean, you still need to have the right balance, like we talked about earlier, the harder decisions. But I think that positivity and being thinking about others and being a giver and those sorts of things, like those laws of abundance, that starts out with a positive calibration and a positive polarity to your magnet, right? It's attractive. Positivity, a smile, a friendly comment, those things are memorable and attractive. And when they're negative, they're repellents, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be in that scenario again. So do you want to attract or do you want to repel? And that's really what it comes down to. If you got the choice to do one thing, be positive.
And I do hike a lot, spend a lot of time in the mountains, and there is something about when you get up to whatever peak it is you're climbing that you just want to say Ricola. So that might be something to say.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. There's
exactly.
There's that.
Hey, I hope Warren, I hope there's a tiny bit of time left, because there's no way you're going to get us telling those ruffle feather stories without sharing a story yourself for a time when you had your feathers ruffled. How did you deal with it? And how much longer do you think you'll have them on the show for?
Well, as we're going to be wrapping things up today.
Yeah.
So
we give you this bonus time today.
You are flipping it. You are now. So you're trying to be host. Whose show is this anyway?
Hey, great leaders can accept leadership. Remember that, right? So we're all in this together. You invited us into the pond. We're going to flap our wings every once in a while.
Okay. All right. I will share. And this is actually, I don't think I've never shared this on the air.
Okay, good.
I did have I was in the medical business. I had built my dream. I built a multidisciplinary medical facility. I had doctors and chiropractors and physiotherapists and naturopaths, and this is my dream, was to put everybody into one big building and really shift healthcare into a very collaborative sense, so that when somebody came in, if it was if they had a problem, they could either see a naturopath or see the doctor or whatever they needed. And it was really one of the first of its kind in North America, actually. It was definitely Western Canada at the time. And so I this was my dream. I had it in my head, and I built it, and I ran it for about 10 years. And there came a time when I needed to shift the business. And what was interesting is, especially having physicians were great, and I loved them. They were friends of mine, but from a business standpoint, the revenue I was generating was not offsetting the cost of having them. So ended up redesigning the business, and I brought in he wanted to be a business partner. So he was a personal trainer. We were going to kind of shift the organization. So make a long story short, I moved the physicians out, brought them in, renovated the place, renamed, rebranded. Here we go. The way there's going to be this next wave. This is going to work. In 4 days, he bailed. And so we opened up January 3rd. January 7th, he says, I can't do this. And so right there and then, everything changed. And because once that happened, then basically it kind of came rats on a sinking ship, and everyone started to bail because there was too much uncertainty.
If you were at the top of the mountain when that happened, what would you have shouted?
You don't know what I want to shout. Yeah, it was a very
I think we know. Yeah.
it was a very interesting time. And but what it did is, I mean, what I ended up doing, actually, I shut the business down. And I went back in to be a solopreneur. But what it allowed me to do was to shift my thinking. And I mean, I still stayed in medicine, but I actually, as you know, do the work with Colby. It what it did is it actually brought my two worlds tighter and together, where my work with people with chronic pain and cognitive stress and those pieces, getting out and helping more organizations, getting out and speaking more and doing the things that actually I really love doing now, that never would have happened unless that situation would have occurred. So in the thick of it, it was not pretty. It was awful. It was very dark. But it was the best thing that ever happened. It was funny is after he bailed in 4 days, and literally he was gone. I never saw him again. And but I had to come to the point of being really angry and really frustrated to actually thanking him, because he actually gave me I call it the gift in the ugly box. From the outside, it did not look very nice, and there was an ugly box, did not look good. I didn't want to open it because it was really ugly, but there was a gem inside of it that once I opened it up, I discovered it. So he actually gave me a gift, but didn't really realize it at the time.
Well, the gift was just a different look at you. He gave you a mirror. It was tarnished and crappy at looking at the time, but that's really forced you to be who you are and dig in and learn. And now look at what's become of it, right? So
yeah. So that was what ruffled my feathers, and I'm grateful at the other side. And honestly, I've it sounds so cliche, but people used to say to me, if you find something you love to do, you never have to work a day in your life. And I thought, yeah, that's nice. But what I've discovered is actually true. I don't really have to work anymore.
Right.
I get paid to play, and it's joy. And that's not even fun. It's joy. And
right.
And that's finally I got to that point because of the situation
cool.
that occurred in the past.
Yeah,
It's
very cool.
It's hard to get there because it is such a niche to get yourself into that place and discover what it is, and it takes training and intent. And Colby scores, Clifton strengths, like Strength Finder. Get in there, and then also surrounding yourself with people who value those strengths and rely on you to deliver in those things as well. Because if you're not being valued, it's going to suck, no matter what. So surround yourself with people who value it and who are positive and appreciative of it, and then it will not feel like work. And Justin Breen,
Yes,
he lives that life every day, talking to other entrepreneurs and spending time with his family. That's all he does. It's a true niche. Yeah.
This morning I get to talk to Julia Waller, and
okay, great.
So we're going to be talking. Julie and I have been friends for years, and but we're talking about my Colby. We're going to talk. I'm actually interviewing her. She's interviewing me. I just did my print, Strength Finder. So we're going to have an absolutely amazing conversation this morning. So I'm really looking forward to that.
All right, what's your Colby score?
2486.
2486. Okay.
Yeah.
Duane, 7464, something like that. What are you?
7463.
7463. 4312 for me. And how about Clifton strengths? You know your top 5?
Don't remember my title. Maximizer, achiever, connector. I'd have futuristic. And there's one more. Do you know yours off the top of your head?
Strategic, ideation, or futurism might be number 2. Ideation, input, and positivity. There are the only one. The positivity is the relationship one. The rest are all strategic.
Right.
And then the next 5 are all orange influencer ones. So strategy and influence are the top things. But for me, I've learned it's all about innovation is the exciting spot for for me to be, and to help other people get into their own future.
Yeah. Ideation was my other one. That's nice.
Ideation. Yeah. We're very similar. Like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Duane, what do you want your top 5 strengths finder?
I don't know, to tell you the truth. I haven't. It's been so long, I think, since I've done that.
You should do it again.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Know thyself.
I'm very focused on Colby. I'm a big simplifier.
Yeah.
And there's all sorts of different, tests and personality testing out there. For some reason, I just really have gravitated to Colby. I'm like, okay, in my world of simplification, I'm just going to think about that one.
Me too.
I get it. I understand it. As soon as I see somebody else's, I know who they are, so to speak, so.
Yeah.
Your problem solving strategy.
And you said it there, Warren, know thyself. Ironically, that was the title of the episode with Shannon Waller, where we talked about the visionary's curse, what's important, EOS, Colby, all mashed up. So say hello to Julia.
I will,
please. I haven't seen her for a while.
I'll definitely say hi to her. So
those Waller ladies are great.
They are great. I had Shannon on too. So yeah. So this is they're lovely people. It's magnificent. All right, Dave and Duane, I want to thank you for your time today, and thank you for sharing your stories and thanking and your wisdom and what you're doing to better the pond. And if people want to find you, where do they go?
Best way to find us is by visiting buildernuggets.com. You can also find us on Builder Nuggets on Facebook, Instagram, and wherever else you might search for podcasts.
And we love hearing from people too. So if you have something from, a concept from the show that you want to explore, reach out, and we can hook you up. If we can't answer your question, we can hook you up with other resources. We've got a great network of pros now. So we love hearing from the viewers of the podcast that we appear on, or from our own podcast as well. So thanks for including us here.
All that stuff connects back to us, and whether the question is about Alair or maybe us personal, it all ends up in the same spot.
And I'm working on a part 2 if we get a deeper dive for the Pondcast. So if there's something that you guys want to really dive into more, let me know, and we can do a deeper dive as well into a certain specific subject, maybe that you'd like to share with my audience.
I like it.
Yeah, same.
Perfect.
All right.
Great. There you had it, folks. We had a great time today with Dave and Duane, and this is Warren Barry, and I'm flocking off to take you beyond the pond, to better the pond, because we're better together. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thanks, Warren. Appreciate it.
See ya.